Dr. Mathur. Good morning, Dr. Sir. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ji. Dr. Clay Selvan, please unmute yourself, sir.
To do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now it's
yeah.
okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, Dr. Kalai Selvan, and good morning,
Good
Dr.
morning.
Mathur. I welcome you both to this AICTE Atal Faculty Development Program being held at DIPSRU in online mode. And this is the 11th session and day 4, which shall be spanning from 11:45 to 1:15 p.m. I welcome you both, sir. Over to you, Dr. Rajni Mathur.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to introduce Dr. Kanai Selvan. He is a very close and dear friend, and he needs no introduction. He is a stalwart at IPC, and we are very proud of his achievements. He is an alumni of the organization and has always supported and in constant touch with the organization. So, welcome, Dr. Kanai. Your words and works are so great that the whole country and internationally you have brought a lot of acclaim to the pharmacovigilance program of India. However, a formal introduction for all the participants. You are presently working as the Principal Scientific Officer at the IPC, and you're also in charge for establishing a new area, that is the Material Vigilance Program of India. That is a very pioneering program that you are spearheading. Congratulations. And of course, you are an undergraduate from the MGR University and you are PhD from University of Delhi. And you have a lot of peer-reviewed articles and experience in pharmacovigilance and drug standard setting. Currently, you are also working in collaboration with the WHO country office and the headquarters at Geneva, and also Southeast Asia regional officer to strengthen the medical products. And you have been very instrumental, and you have actively participated to establish a robust system of pharmacovigilance program of India, and the whole nation is proud of you. You have about 5 books to your name, numerous publications, and you're recipient of numerous fellowships, and you are doing very great also by sharing your knowledge repeatedly on many platforms like the Quality Improvement Program, the FDP. You are guiding MPharm students. So I take this opportunity to invite you, and please deliver your talk. Over to you, Dr. Kalai.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Dr. Saurav, I'm audible, no?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Yeah, I'm audible.
And your
Thank
screen
you.
is also shared, sir.
Screen also visible, right?
Yes,
thank
sir.
You.
Slides are visible.
Thank you so much. Again, I take this opportunity to sincerely thank the Vice Chancellor of DIPSRU, all my respected teachers of DIPSRU. I may not name anyone because all of them are, they guided me, they molded me, so I cannot mention any one name. So the entire DIPSRU faculty members are thankful. They are very cooperative and they molded me, guided me to achieve whatever I am here today. Especially thanks to all QIP team for giving this opportunity to interact with the fellow teachers of the pharmacy institutions. Those have joined from different parts of the country. Thanks to one and all. At the outset, I am always associated with DIPSRU for not only for pharmacovigilance as well as other research areas, whatever we can contribute for the better research proposals of the DIPSRU students. We are also doing that. Thanks to all of you. And on behalf of Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission, today I will be sharing some of the recent initiatives with respect to the pharmacovigilance for medical devices. So that will be a focus of my presentation today. For that, I'm sure many of the faculty members are very well aware of the Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission's mandate and duties which we are performing for promoting the public health. But for the benefit of the faculty members, some of the participants and students, again, I'm very happy to share with you that the responsibility currently we do uh, for promoting the public health, like the major role would be promoting the standards for all approved drugs and pharmaceuticals in the form of publication of Indian Pharmacopoeia, which is the first and foremost mandate of Indian Pharmacopoeia. With
Excuse me,
respect,
Dr. Saab.
Yeah.
Our participants are asking to increase the speaker volume if possible. Mic volume.
mic volume is there already. I don't know. Just a minute. Mic volume, I have kept by full volume.
I think, but now the voice is better, sir. Better than earlier, sir.
Okay. I might be some issues with now. Okay, no.
Yes, sir. It is okay.
I have
now.
kept full volume only.
Okay, sir. Please go ahead.
Any you can ask me any issues or any difficulties. You can always interrupt. No problem.
Thank you, sir.
So with respect to the monograph development, we also need to develop reference standards for the respective monograph and also impurity standards. So this is again the major highly specialized area and highly technical activity which we do for the promoting the quality of medicines. So while doing these two activities, there is always a holistic approach when we do the quality parameters. The safety also equally important. Both quality and safety are paramount when we talk about patient safety. So the safety also, when we talk about safety, there are two important programs which we are coordinating, like Dr. Rajini Mathur mentioned during my when I was introduced, like the pharmacovigilance and material vigilance program of India. So these two are very important public health programs which takes care of the safety of medicines and medical devices. So we have set up we built a huge capacity building infrastructure and continuous training to the stakeholders in terms of promoting the adverse events reporting for drugs and devices vaccines, which is also part of Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission's activity. Then quality and safety, and another one is rational use. Yes, we address the quality, we take care of the safety, but always promoting the rational use also a part of better healthcare. So, a book of promoting rational use of generic medicines called National Formulary of India is being published by Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission at regular interval. So, not only promoting the rational use of generic medicines, this guidance document, actually it's a guidance document. If you take IP, which is the legally accepted book of standards as per the Drugs and Cosmetics Act 1940 and Rules 1945 thereunder. IP has got legal provision, but this NFI, it's a guidance document. Any healthcare professional can use this document as a reference. They can refer, but it is not a legal document. So, for effective implementation of these activity, pharmacopoeia, or it may be a publication of NFI. So all these activities of IPC are supported by the institutions like DIPSRU or other Institute of Excellence. They always support us in conducting regular training program, delivering the activities. Without academic institutions or support of the academicians, we cannot move forward. So I'm very happy to share with you that the DIPSRU role is also very important in delivering our duties and responsibilities. See, next, when we talk about the safety, which is the main focus for my today's discussion, you all might be aware. I don't require to recollect the thalidomide tragedy, which is the base for starting the pharmacovigilance, which is the genesis of pharmacovigilance. Right, when the drug was introduced in the market in 1960, later on it was found that the thalidomide may cause phocomelia, may develop phocomelia, that is congenital anomaly, and the result, the babies were born without lymph node, medically known as phocomelia. So this was the adverse event, and this was the purpose of starting this pharmacovigilance. And then the entire world came to know no medicine is free from adverse effect. So there should be a robust system, and there is a need of continuous monitoring of adverse events. So that's how the pharmacovigilance system came into exist and started every developing countries as well as developed country. All of them have started their own pharmacovigilance system. Now, when it cases, again, we may not be knowing whether the medical devices are causing adverse event or not. Hypothetically, to talk generally, they may be I'm audible, no? Dr. Saurabh, can I continue, no?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir. Please continue.
So slides also visible to you, right?
Yes, yes, sir. Slide is visible.
So this is the example what I was trying to say. The example, the pharmacovigilance. Actually, I told you pharmacovigilance was the basic started when the thalidomide was introduced. Then for medical devices, this was the case. Recent cases when the medical device articular surface hip implants was implanted in patients, though there were a lot of complications after the several years, couple of years, the patients were reported with metal leaching and lot of infections. They were forced to the revision of surgeries. So this metal leaching is one of the complication reported with number of medical devices, including this hip implants. Now, what happened? The company was forced to recall the devices which are marketed. So it happened in the year 2010. So this was one of the major issue with the medical devices. Till then, the medical devices related adverse events were not looked into proper manner. So this was the example, one of the reason, again, we need to focus the safety of devices. Actually, currently, we have a stable governance and structure for the medical devices of adverse events reporting as well as for drugs. We have a national coordinating center, that is Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission, which takes care of the adverse event reporting of medical devices and for drugs through pharmacovigilance and material vigilance program. And one more thing, when we want to ensure the sustainability of any government program, there should be always a legal binding regulation or legislation is must. So there is a provision for pharmacovigilance in the new clinical trial rule 2019 and also in the Schedule M. Schedule M already it is there. The adverse events reporting is the duty of the manufacturer. And for medical devices, the new medical devices rule, that is Medical Device Rule 2017, is introduced in India. So I'll be talking a little bit about the regulation of medical devices or legislation of the medical devices. which will give you some idea and the importance of monitoring the safety of medical devices. So, and the regulatory authority is also very important in terms of decision making. So we do coordinate the program pharmacovigilance and material vigilance, and we do generate the data, clinically or scientifically evaluated data. Now those data are finally submitted to the regulatory authority, that is National Regulatory Authority in India, CDSCO, Central Drug Standard Control Organization, for making any regulatory decision. So these four components are very much important in terms of effective implementation of both pharmacovigilance and material vigilance. And now, as per the definition and statement of WHO, the National Pharmacovigilance System, we have a National Pharmacovigilance System which is coordinated by the Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission, which naturally, logically, which is responsible for monitoring the adverse events with the use of medical products. That means drugs, the adverse events associated are suspected with the use of drugs or vaccine or medical devices and traditional medicines. All needs to be monitored. So, a national PV system or a regional adverse drug reaction monitoring center or any individual or a healthcare professional, say for example, we as a pharmacist, our responsibility is to monitor the adverse events with the use of all medical products. So far, we have been concentrating on the adverse events reporting or managing or prevention of adverse events with the use of drugs. So we as a healthcare professional or we as a National Pharmacovigilance Center, our responsibility, our focus is always to monitor the safety of all medical products, including drugs, vaccines, medical devices, and traditional system of medicines. And one more thing, the reporting may be different forms may be used. For example, the adverse event reporting for drugs, we may have a different ADR reporting form. For vaccine, we have 3 different forms like preliminary investigation report, detailed investigation report, and final reporting form. So the forms are different, but if you look at the terminologies and the definitions of the adverse events are same, like serious events, non-serious events. So this kind of terminologies and reporting type of events to be reported are common with respect to all products, even medical devices. There may be forms, reporting forms or reporting tools may be different, but if you talk about the type of event, serious event or non-serious events, all must be reported. And then even traditional system of medicine, again, the causality assessment for traditional system of medicine is differ from others. Here you have a polyherbal formulation. Here you have a adulterants or contaminants will play an important role in causing the adverse events. So our approach will be different when you do causality assessment or when you analyze the report. You have to adapt different approaches for drugs, vaccines, medical devices, and traditional system of medicine. Say for example, in case of the causality assessment for medical devices, it's entirely different from drugs. Here you have product failure also come into the picture, or administration or maintenance issue. Calibration of the medical device also becomes an important tool in analyzing the adverse event. Say for example, now thermometer or BP apparatus, all of them have been notified as medical devices. If you have thermometer or if a BP apparatus, or you have a pulse oximeter, nowadays every home it is being used. If there is any error in the pulse oximeter, so that must be reported as an adverse event. That may be because of maintenance or calibration, other issues. So here, why I'm sharing with you, our approach in terms of doing the causality assessment is vary from one product to another product. For drugs, you have very well established procedure for doing the causality assessment. You have Naranjo scale, we have WHO scale. and then you can put under the category of certain, probable or possible, likely, unlikely, etc. For vaccine also the similar adverse event, more or less similar, but vaccine you have a different approach because there are a lot of factors are played in terms of causality assessment, like administration error, storage, maintenance of supply chain, etc. So we as a pharmacist, we must able to understand what type of event to be reported with respect to this product, where to report, how to report, and how to analyze. So whether it is a known or unknown, serious or non-serious, or already documented or not. So we have to report everything to these products. But after reporting, the analysis becomes a different factor. How we are going to analyze with respect to drugs event, vaccine event, medical devices, or traditional medicine. So overall, I would like to share with you that we as a pharmacist, or we as a healthcare provider, or we as a national PV center or regional center, our responsibility is to focus the safety of all medical products as a pharmacovigilance team. Actually, this is what medical devices definition. What do you mean by medical devices means? It may be an instrument, apparatus, or implant, anything, even all implantable medical devices like cardiac stent, hip implant, orthopedic implant, knee implant. So all the implants that comes under the medical devices. The instruments which are used for the diagnosis, disease diagnosis, or any apparatus which is used for the diagnosis. All in vitro diagnostic reagents are also considered as medical devices. So now what do you mean by in vitro diagnostic? The in vitro diagnostic reagents which are used in the TB, HIV, malaria. So all this comes under the medical devices. There you can have a different approach. As I told you, false positive and false negative related adverse events needs to be uh, monitored. So this is how the definition will do as per the new definition of medical devices. So definition, any medical devices which is meant for the diagnosis of the disease, or the treatment of the disease, or prevention of the disease, or even the software which are used in the hospital, also considered to be a medical devices. Nowadays there are a lot of scope for artificial intelligence which is going to come up. Again, this is going to be approved as a medical devices. Now many countries, say for example US FDA, TGA, Therapeutic Goods Administration, Australia, and other many other European Union, many countries have started approving this artificial intelligence or machine learning also be as a medical devices. So in the years to come, we have a lot of challenges, and even we have, these issues are going to be handled. Maybe one research of the area, and another one regulatory implications. So we as a healthcare team, we have a lot of scope and challenges in terms of introducing and managing artificial intelligence uh, for the disease management, prevention. Actually, this rule, the medical devices rule in India, now I'm very happy to share with you that all the medical now it is regulated or notified as a drugs. All medical devices are considered as drugs only. So the same pattern and same process will be followed for approval. You have a preclinical data and clinical data. You need to submit clinical investigation data for medical devices. Actually, we submitted to the regulatory authority for approval. So currently, all medical devices are being regulated as drugs as per the Medical Devices Rule 2017. That is called MDR, Medical Devices Rule. It's a separate rule, so you can Google it and you can download the medical devices rule, and how it is going to be applied and implemented. No, as per this rule, medical devices rule, we have a lot of career opportunities also for the pharmacy professionals. Now the medical devices manufacturing unit, as well as testing authorities all are going to be approved and accredited. So nowadays, number of medical devices testing laboratories are also coming up. And if you go through the gazette, couple of number of medical devices testing officers are also approved by the Central Drugs Standards Control Organization, CDSCO. So there are lot of career opportunities for the pharmacist in government sector as well as private sector also going to coming up. It is also started. So number of officers have been appointed in CDSCO to regulate the medical devices. And similarly, when it is there in the national regulatory authority, you can always expect some kind of developments in the industry, private sector also. So this is the positive movement, very significant stone in Indian medical device industry is concerned. This implemented now all devices are. And what this rule says actually, say for example, all the medical devices are classified as low high risk medical devices. We have 4 category as per the MDR 2017. I mean, MDR means Medical Device Rule 2017. Category A is low risk kind of medical devices. There are number of medical devices are put under the category of low risk. To say few, thermometers and surgical dressings. We have absorbent cotton, surgical swab, sutures, ligatures, gelatin sponge. All these products are considered as low risk of medical devices. Then we have next category B, that is low to moderate risk. Needles and syringes, example. Then when you take moderate to high risk, ventilator, intraocular, ocular medical devices are also considered as high risk, moderate to high risk medical devices. You have cataract devices, glaucoma devices, etc. So all such devices are put under the category of C. And we have high-end, high-risk medical devices. All implants are class D category of medical devices. You have, say for example, drug-eluting cardiac stents, hip implants, knee implants, orthopedic implants. So all these kind of implants are classified as high-risk medical devices. So these are the few examples I want to explain to you. There are number of around there are 1,000 devices regulated under these categories only. 1,000 numbers maybe there are 1,000 kind devices under this 4 category. Right. Now the medical device rule is mandatory. Every industry should follow, shall comply with the medical devices rule. But when it comes to the safety monitoring, Vigilance program, again, it's a voluntary program launched by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India, recognizing Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission as a rating center. Actually, we have started this program in 2016. It was launched, but 2015, sorry, 15 it was launched. But the Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission took this responsibility as a national coordinating center in 2018 only. So 18 onwards, we are full-fledged role to play in this category. We are responsible for monitoring the adverse events of medical devices, and we have to detect. We have to really this medical devices is causing this adverse event or any other comorbid conditions. We need to detect, and then again we have to assess the adverse event and understand. Then we communicate the risk to the healthcare professionals and regulatory authority for making any changes on the devices. So this aligns with the pharmacovigilance program of India. This material vigilance also functioning. And the CDSC also time to time they issue a lot of advisory notice to the regulators, I mean to the companies as well as state regulatory authorities for effective implementation of this program in terms of reporting the adverse events to Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission. Actually, this is the system which we adopt at Indian Pharmacopoeia Commission actually for monitoring, reporting, and analyzing the adverse events. Naturally, there are a number of reporting tools are also established, like separate medical device adverse event reporting form, and you have helpline, mobile application, etc. So how who can report the adverse event with respect to the medical devices? Yes, there are a number of healthcare professionals, biomedical engineers or clinical engineers. When it comes to the instrumentation, say for example, ventilator or pacemaker or X-ray machine or scan, MRI scan. So naturally, biomedical engineers as well as lab technicians are they have the expertise and they are expert domain, so they can. It comes to the companies. Yes, whatever the company they have their product, they must report. Maybe a number of companies are reporting now with respect to their own product of medical devices responsibility. And hospital managers also report whatever the devices, mm, finding difficulties or devices are suspecting to have some kind of adverse event. So the hospital managers or quality managers report the adverse event. Whereas others like uh, clinicians, pharmacists, patient, nurses, they can also report other kind of implants. Pharmacists may not able to report incubator or ventilator. But again, pharmacists can report the adverse event with the use of needle or syringes or hip implants, orthopedic implants. So even nurses also will have the similar role to play in medical device adverse event reporting. And what to report? Same, serious or non-serious, known or unknown, frequent or rare. So all type of adverse event must be reported. So generally, we need to generate the database, India specific database to collect to have all kind of adverse events, right? And now next part, what kind of information we require actually with respect to the medical device adverse event reporting. See, most of the cases for drugs, you are aware, like patient information is required. Same here, we require the reporter detail, patient detail, device category, and besides that there are other general information also required. Then the causality assessment, also one of the main area here, whether it is related to the device or not. Then the investigation and action taken report, what action taken, corrective and preventive action has been taken by the hospital or company. So this kind of information will help us in evaluating or assessing the adverse event. Correct. There are some differences while managing the adverse event or reporting the adverse event with the use of drugs and devices. Like for drugs, it is mainly for how it is being classified, mainly therapeutic or intended use. In case of devices, again, it may be diagnostic also. Of course, devices are also used for therapeutic purposes, but again, diagnostic is important of medical devices. As I told you, many X-ray imaging, MRI scan, other equipments are used. Now, always the device related mm, part is based on the engineering, because pharmaceutical engineering or chemical engineering or mechanical engineering part will play a important role. I don't know whether the pharmaceutical engineering subject is still exist in our syllabus or not, but once upon a time when we were studying BPharm, there was a subject called pharmaceutical engineering. So that was one of the main reason why pharmacists can play an important role in the medical device adverse event monitoring. So these are some of the differences which I would like to highlight. Uh, Safety and efficacy of the drugs is always important, but here safety and performance or accuracy. Accuracy is plays a very important role in assessing the safety of medical devices. For ensuring the quality of medical devices, we have a quality management system like GMP, Good Manufacturing Practices for drugs. Uh, Again, the devices, there is some of the test needs to be important while ensuring the quality and safety of medical devices like biocompatibility, sterilization, because most of the product, if the products are not sterile, then there may be a chance of adverse event reporting. Device malfunction is also to be noted, like drug interactions. Here, the outcome of medical devices are always depend on directly on skilled or expertise of the user, experience of the user. But in case of drugs, outcomes generally not depend on skill or experience of user. It always depends upon the uh, product, pharmacology of a pharmacology, or basic nature of the product, chemicals or molecule, drug molecule used in the preparation. Well, and so far this is a kind of information, what kind of mm, चल रहा है? So again, some kind of information which I would like to bring it here. This is the trend analysis in our place. There are number of issues related to the dissection or procedural error. You know, procedural error is one of the major root cause for the adverse event reporting during the surgery, because of surgery or because of dissection or device or because of the device's breakage or expulsion. So these are the some of the common adverse events we found with the use of medical devices. When thrombosis, again, when we talk about the cardiac stents, thrombosis is also one of the important adverse events which we captured. Metallosis, very few reports we got metallosis with the use of hip implant or other implants because of the metal leaching. So what we have to do to take the blood sample of the patient, and we have to go for estimation of nickel or cobalt or chromium present in the blood, so that we can conclude it is because of the metallosis or not. So this is one of the, and also investigation also required to conclude whether it is metallosis or not. So when you look at the trend analysis, whatever we have captured and we have analyzed so far, again there are a lot of training is required for the doctors, nurses, as well as other health technicians to prevent this kind of adverse events. So we are working on the training model. Our next one is when it comes to the reporting part, who can report and what can report. Say for example, if you take first 6 category of medical devices, that is bone marrow, biopsy needle, drug eluting stent, heart wall, hip implant, intraocular lenses, intrauterine contraceptive devices. So these are the adverse events can be managed or reported by the doctor, pharmacists, nurses, and even biomedical engineers. Others also can do. But when it comes to the engineering part, or instrumentation, in equipment, then the doctor or pharmacist may not have adequate knowledge or skill or experience or expertise in this instrumentation handling, because biomedical engineers or lab technician will able to help us in identifying these adverse events. Nowadays, if you take ambulance also notified as a medical devices, even pacemaker also notified as a medical devices. So certainly we require the experience and expertise or inputs from the biomedical engineers. So we must understand what pharmacists can do or doctor can do. As pharmacy professionals can do a research or can report the medical devices which are manufactured or which are designed by using the plant source or animal source or drug, for example drug eluting stents. So these are the area, these are our domains, easily we can manage and report. But when it comes to the instrumentation, ventilator or other things, let it be the responsibility of biomedical engineers. Actually, this is the field safety corrective action form which is required for the industry or manufacturers to notify the adverse event or to notify the fault of the particular devices to the authority, so that we can take immediate corrective action by identifying the same kind of medical devices or same batch number of medical devices if it is available in the market. So this is one of the initiative taken by us, and it is being circulated to all the companies and hospitals to notify the corrective field safety corrective action taken by the medical devices of which is caused adverse event. And one more thing, while doing this material vigilance or medical devices safety monitoring surveillance system, we may encounter number of challenges and issues. Say, for example, low reporting or under reporting. Again, it's a voluntary program. Under reporting is always will be a problem. So we thought, let us introduce some advanced tools and technology for reporting, like the mobile app, one of the technology we introduced. Other than that, we are also in the process of online reporting system. It is also under pipeline. So once these tools and these facilities are introduced to the stakeholders, it becomes easy for them to report the program, to report to the program. Actually, currently the adverse event reporting Google form also available, online reporting form also available. But when we develop a robust national database tool for adverse event management of medical devices, we'll have a provision e-reporting of medical devices for all the healthcare professionals and every individual to report. So that becomes a challenge. Then the database is very much required. Like for drugs, we have very very comprehensive database, vFlow and VGBase, for monitoring and reporting of adverse event and even for analysis purpose. So similarly, we are also developing a national database for medical devices so that we can able to analyze and appropriate outcome and recommendations can be given to the regulatory authority for making any decision. So when we talk about the challenges, these are the we thought major and important challenge with respect to the medical device adverse event monitoring, but naturally we have to move forward. I think I have completed my talk, my presentation, and I'll be very happy if any participants or anyone to ask any specific questions related to my talk. I'll be more than happy. Now, I think over to Dr. Saurav.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kalai Selvan, for finding time from your busy schedule and reaching out to us, and also having some technical glitches, but still I have to appreciate that you overcome them to deliver this talk. And we were definitely, and all the participants were benefited with your talk on medical device safety monitoring. And you have also taken us through the various regulations, various latest definitions. And sir, on behalf of the participants, like one thing was coming to my mind, like the first query I will be putting up here before you, sir, if you allow.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, sir, my query is like in the recent past, we were reading in the newspapers that various patients of the COVID disease, they were having different kind of adverse reactions, and they were having different sort of problems which we can term as ADRs, but the common person sometimes is not much aware of them. But still, if he is having any such kind of condition which he is feeling that is in addition to his prevailing circumstances of disease, then what should he do? Where should he report? Is there any direct reporting system also, or only the medical professionals are able to report to IPC or to the pharmacovigilance monitoring center, sir?
See, if you look at this vaccine-related adverse event reporting, there is always a system and portal called CoWIN.
Yes, sir.
If you
Yes.
log in the CoWIN, there is a possibility, and there are a lot of tools are available for direct reporting for vaccine-related, because this vaccine-related adverse events are managed by adverse events following immunization. AEFI team at Ministry of Health and Family Welfare is managing the adverse event, and reporting facilities are there. But whereas other products, like for adverse event with the use of medical devices or adverse event with the use of drugs during COVID pandemic, the reporting tools direct reporting to IPC through helpline. There is a helpline 1800 180 3024. Helpline is available, and even mobile app also available. So by using this mobile app, anyone can report any adverse events of their preferred or their choice. Their choice in the sense they can report to any ADR monitoring center of PBPI or MBPI, or directly to IPC. But most of the ADR reports, usually, ideally, it should come through the regional ADR monitoring center, because we may require some kind of follow-up information. Patient follow-up is always is the responsibility of the regional ADR monitoring center. They will follow with the patient. They will have all details of the patient. So if required, even our PV associates or PVPA team at regional center visits to patient's home and collect the reports. So this kind of mechanism or provisions are already made with our regional adverse drug reaction monitoring center. There are there are around 350 ADR monitoring center plus medical device adverse event monitoring center. So they are doing their level best.
Okay, sir, I have like another query, since the talk was very much interesting to me, and
No problem.
I am taking your time and the
No
participants' time. Like, is there any app also available with you where any person can download in the mobile and then report the thing to you directly?
Yeah, that is what PVPI ADR app, PVPI ADR.
ADR app, okay.
That is available. That can be downloaded from Google Play Store. You can download and you can report. That is for PVPI, and for vaccine, I told you CoWIN is there.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Over to Dr. Mathur. Rajini ma'am, are you here? Okay. Please hold on. Ma'am, please try now. Dr. Mathur,
Yeah.
please unmute. Yeah.
Hello.
Ma'am, yes, madam. You
Yeah.
are audible now, ma'am. Dr. Mathur, you are audible now. You can switch on your video also.
So there's a question regarding certification of medical devices in the chat box. So there is a query regarding certification of medical devices.
Madam, certification part, it is a regulatory under the purview of regulatory authority, Central Drug Standard Control Organization, and the state drug control authority. Because now all the state drug control authority also responsible for the managing the regulating the medical devices. So certification part will not come under the purview of material vigilance program.
If anybody is having any other query, you are most welcome to post it immediately in the chat box, please.
So they are asking about the certification of the medical devices, Dr. Katay.
I have responded, madam. Actually, the certification means, for example, certification of medical devices comes under the purview of CDSCO, Central Drug Standard Control Organization, and the State Drug Control Authority. I am audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir.
So this is the one thing, madam. As per the regulation, medical devices certification is with the responsibility of the regulatory authority, state and central licensing authority.
Yeah. Dr. Kalai, I wanted to ask you something. For example, even you know that we are conducting that material vigilance program regarding orthopedic implants. You are also participating in those thesis works of students. So I was just wondering, a material vigilance program like this needs a lot more interactive, laboratory activities where we need to, measure levels, etc. So how can we improve the infrastructure in this regard to make this material vigilance program a lot more effective?
Well, I think for training or reach out of this MBPI, we require specific module or educational material product to product, because like drugs, we cannot have the same module for medical devices. Say for example, if we have ocular medical devices, we should have a separate training module. Implants, we should have a separate training module. I think these are the area which we need to develop, and we have to approach the healthcare professional or stakeholders accordingly. So this is one of the area. And another thing, research and development. Through the research project, nowadays number of pharmacy institutions, we have huge workforce of pharmacy. We have to approach them, and we have to have very good networking with the institutions, and to go with the research mode also. Actually, through our regional ADR monitoring center or medical device monitoring centers, we may not able to reach out, or we may not achieve what we want to do. End up partnering with the institutions like you for doing this act mode also. I'm audible, madam?
Yeah, in between your signal is you are having some connectivity issues, but I think more or less we got the idea that you are saying that the participation of the IPC with the academic institutions will go a long way in strengthening
Yes.
the material vigilance program.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so I think there is a lot of appreciation amongst the audience, especially because you've touched upon a new topic and highlighted the areas that need to be worked on. Um, a lot of participants are new to this concept of material vigilance, and definitely I think it
And
will go a long way in educating the professionals and updating their knowledge. So if there are any questions, I request the participants to type in the chat box. Else I can hand over to Dr. Dahiya to complete the formalities.
Thank you, Dr. Mathur. And I am also receiving so many appreciation messages on WhatsApp. And some of them are also requesting for the some resource materials or some PowerPoint presentations, if sir can like share with the participants, because they are very much interested in your topic, sir, and they have been requesting me on WhatsApp like to
no,
get some more resource materials, or if you can recommend some more resource materials.
I'll provide to you either, or they can always go through the website of IPC, www.ipc.gov.in. So there they can go to the navigation of Pharmacovigilance Program of India and Material Vigilance Program of India. They can access the material. If not possible, always my mobile number is with you, and my email ID is with you. You can ask me what kind of information you require, like the gazette notification. I told you, for medical devices gazette notification, which is freely available. You can Google it, Medical Devices Rule 2017. So you can download it. That will be a very good document. In fact, the career opportunities for the pharmacist, it's going to evolve like anything. There are number of posts are going to be created in CDSU for medical devices. So those.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for updating. And finally, I thank Dr. V. Kaliselvan for his excellent and detailed talk on medical devices and safety monitoring. And sir, since this is the COVID guidelines are in place, so we could not exchange any mementos, but we have a very exclusively prepared digital certificate for you, sir. Harsh, can we display the certificate? And I request Dr. Rajni Mathur to kindly join me and show our appreciation and our token of respect to Dr. Kaliselvan, sir.
Congratulations, Dr. Palai.
Sir, please unmute yourself, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank
Thanks,
you very much for this honor. I am thankful to every one of you.
Thanks a lot,
Really?
sir, for sharing your time with us, sir.
Yes, sparing your precious time. Thank you so
Thank you so
much,
much,
Dr.
madam.
Palai.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Looking forward to interacting with you in many other programs. Thank you so much.
And I also thank Dr. Rajini Mathur, madam, for for being here during the entire session and sharing and helping us and supporting us in all the possible ways. Thank you so much, madam.
It's always
Thanks
a
to all.
pleasure, Dr. Palai.
Thank
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Thank you
Thank you.
so
Bye. Bye. Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir, for gracing this session. Here we conclude the 2 sessions for day 4. We shall proceed towards session 12 after the lunch break. Everyone is requested to kindly rejoin at 2:15 p.m. and we shall proceed towards session 12 ahead.
you all.